Hi, everybody. This is Jim Prusak from the Pain PT. Thanks for being here. I have a great success story today for all of you, and I'm so happy to see Claire here today. Hey, Claire, how you doing?
Hi, Jim. I'm good, thanks. Good to see you.
Yeah, we were just talking off air about looking at some of your dates, when you started this work from the first email, and I'm excited for you to share your story to people because I think it's very powerful in terms of what you've been through, where you came from, and even the time it took, but your perseverance and getting there. So I'm going to turn it over to you and have you share your story from the beginning
Great.
to the end.
Thanks so much, Jim. Thank you. Yeah, I really appreciate the chance to be able to share my story. It's kind of a story that I might have been searching for myself back many years ago, in a way to kind of to give me some courage and faith to do this work, for sure. And it's been a long journey, as you say, a long journey. And one that I really want to start with kind of gratitude and thanks to people that have helped me along this way, which has been Jasmine, an amazing physio, Stephen, a skilled podiatrist, very skilled and specialist, my partner Richard, some friends and some therapists along the way. And importantly, you, Jim, I'm full of gratitude and appreciation for our work. And as you said, we started working together in 2021, start of 2021, which feels like sounds like a long time ago, but it's sped by. It's sped by, yeah. And I had I've had a lot of chronic pain in my life that's shown up in different places in my body. And it's been, I've had endometriosis for 10 years. I had that. I had tinnitus, chronic sinus infections and sinus pain, really kind of, sciatica. I'm sort of pointing to that side because it's that side of my body. So all kind of, I've had a lot of pain throughout my life. And running alongside that, I've had a lot of stress and a lot of trauma. And that's been in childhood, in my adolescence, and as an adult. And some of those traumas have been pretty serious, and some of them have been small T's and big T's with the trauma. And I never made the link between things that were happening to me, stress and things that were happening there, and how pain would show up for me. I kept going through those kind of things. I would cope with working a lot, or sometimes drinking a lot, or overeating, or not eating enough. So all of those sorts of things, but always pretty much running away from the things that were happening, trying to distract myself, and getting more and more pain, and cropping up all over my body. And the biggest challenge for me is when I had this problem with my feet and ankles. And that's when it became a significant challenge for me. And that's what led me to finding you and to doing the work with you. But my feet and ankle pain, foot and ankle pain had started in sort of round about 2011. And I just kind of had some arch pain on the left, and bits and pieces, and just kind of a bit of a nuisance. And then it would get worse, and then it would get a lot worse. And then I started investigating it. Then I had orthotics, lots of different sorts of orthotics. I went to see some specialist orthotic makers, so I had these things made for me. And then the pain was getting worse. And then I saw a specialist, and he told me that, a consultant, privately, and he told me I got a bilateral plantar, Achilles heel and post tibialis. I think, is that the right word? Yeah.
Tibialis.
Tibialis, yes, a post tip, kind of inflammation, and kind of, there was a lot of degeneration, he thought, going on, a lot of swelling, a lot of pain. And running alongside that, there was a person I was seeing at the time who was doing some orthotics for me, and he said that if I didn't get these things sorted, that I'd have a serious problem and I would never walk properly again.
Wow.
Yeah.
Terrible. Yeah. And everything right at this point was all biomechanical. Everything was medical. Everything was structural. All these
That's
diagnoses, right? The fact that already you're telling me, I'm listening to it again, the story is bilateral, right? Like, okay, that's kind of interesting. How it's on both sides of your feet, right? No,
yeah,
no injuries, right? It's chronic. It's multiple areas. But yeah, that's just absolutely terrible. And I do hear that, unfortunately, more often than I'd like to, some of those messages.
yeah. And it was very clinical, very medical, and I was very frightened, very, very frightened. And at the time I was doing a lot of personal work on processing trauma. And whilst some of that was great from a head, it was getting my feet and ankles were getting worse. And to the point that sometimes I would sit in the therapist office with packs of peas on my feet. And this was going unnoticed.
Didn't make any connections at the time.
None at all, no connections whatsoever. And I didn't. I really didn't. I just thought I got this structural problem. It was awful, and I needed to keep wearing orthotics, and I needed all of these sorts of things. And this just got worse, and then had a sort of another significant trauma, sort of 2011, and around that time, and it got a lot worse. And I then decided to go and get some help from the NHS here in the UK. And part of that meant that I went for a full biomechanical assessment, and kind of all of those sorts of things to start looking at what was happening for me. So I was in a significant amount of pain, sort of limping. At that point I was limping. I'd become concerned about standing for too long on my feet. I didn't want to shower for too long, so I was starting to get quite uncomfortable being on my feet. A lot of fear about walking and being on my feet. So I went for this appointment, and was told that I needed to be wearing orthotics, and actually I'd stopped wearing them for a short time because they were just too painful. And again, it was one of those moments where I was very frightened and being told I needed these orthotics and they were important. Again, I just kind of found myself in a situation where I panicked. And basically, although I'd walked into the hospital just about, I became in the hospital at that time. I became that unwell, as I thought, and that frightened that I was doing damage by now not wearing the orthotics, that the only way I could get out of the hospital was in a wheelchair and I couldn't walk. And that was it. So I'd gone from this kind of stepped approach of things getting worse, getting significant, and literally I just could not walk, and I was in a
you were in a wheelchair when you left
yeah,
hospital. Yeah.
yeah. And
Wow.
then it got a lot worse. Then I became very fearful, and I limited myself to one room in the house, even having a kettle in my lounge, so I didn't have to walk too far. I would sit on a seat in the shower. I wouldn't go out at all. I didn't want to go out. And I just got worse and worse and worse. And then I just kind of out of the blue, it seemed like some really supportive and a really dear friend told me about Dr. John Sarno, and his book. And I was like, right, okay, I'm going to get this book.
So you were very interested right from the get-go about the book.
Yeah. So it was just something that was like, right, I need to read this book. I read the book, And I just had this huge aha moment. I just suddenly could see the patterns of pain and stress and how they were starting to show up. And so the relief was immense, huge, absolutely huge. And I was thinking, right, okay, I'm gonna be able to do this then. And
So radical shift, you had a big shift from that, which some people talk about. And just to pause for a minute, it was like to pause at certain moments and highlight the fact that, look, you read a book, it shows you right at that point, you didn't, the power of the brain, right, to have a shift, aha moment. And that shifted some of the sensations in your feet.
Absolutely. And as I read the book again, I could see that lots of people were having these very quick changes from pain to then managing pain and being kind of pain free. And I thought that was going to be me. I was convinced that was going to be me. Absolutely, this is not gonna. This is not.
I read the book. It's over with.
Yeah, I've done it. I've done it.
You had a great start. You had a good right start.
Yeah, a great start. But I was still having lots of pain. I was still at this point, still my behavior was still the same, although I was starting to kind of turn towards this. So to this work, to kind of thinking there's more going on here. And so then I then because of having been in a wheelchair, I then had an MRI scan as well. And this was May 2019. I had an MRI. And by this point, my sciatica had come back as well, quite badly, which quite interesting. So although I was reading the book, I had this MRI scan, and then I remember it was the 12th of June, 2019. I then went for the results with my partner, and we sat there, and I was thinking, I'm going to hear that I'm going to have surgery or those sorts of things. And he said, there is absolutely nothing the matter at all with your feet, foot and ankles. There's nothing on the scans, absolutely nothing. And I was just like, I couldn't believe it. There was
How did you take that information in at the time?
Well, I was ecstatic. I was over the moon, I'm absolutely. I was like, oh my goodness! And I can remember saying, to my partner, right, even if this takes me 3 months, I'm going to do this now. I know I'm going to do this. And of course, at that point, I had no idea how complex this wiring had got in my brain and how fear driven it had been. And I didn't understand fully the pain and how it sort of how kind of what it can do to us, and how it had been linked with a lot of emotional things that happened in my life, and that had been the way that I'd expressed emotions. It had gone in on me. I had no idea. So I then met lovely Jasmine, the physio, and she then started very patiently supporting me with some exercises to strengthen. And because I'd not wanted to move, and I'd gone from being very fit. I think this is important to say. I'd run, I'd kind of hiked up mountains, I've had horses, I've been a very fit person. So it was unusual for me not to want to walk. Really, I'd had a lot of times I've been very fit. And Jasmine then started educating me about pain through Professor Laurie Mosley.
Lorimer Mosley. Yeah.
Lorimer Mosley. Thank you. Yeah. So I can remember I had a look at a video or something and some of his work, and it was good. I was like, oh my goodness, yes. But it still wasn't going in. And I went back to the Dr. Sarno's book, which was actually the Healing Chronic Back Pain book. And started desperately searching for people who might have had foot and ankle problems as well, really wanting to find kind of stories that were like that. And then I guess it's being in the right headspace at the time. I'd missed that there's a person, a woman in the UK called Georgie Oldfield, with the organisation SERPA, and I know you're kind of connected with that organisation as well. And so I had an appointment with Georgie, and what was brilliant was we had an assessment, and she was really clear, very, very clear. She'd given that you have a complicated trauma history. I think you'd be best working with a psychologist, a trauma-informed psychologist, but who works with the body as well. So that was great. And I started that work, and I started to see improvements, but I was still not wanting to stand. I was still wearing orthotics. And what was happening is, between seeing Jasmine, which was quite regularly, I then would see Stephen, who was a specialist podiatrist and worked with orthotics. And slowly but surely, he was giving me some education as well on my feet, and telling me I was okay. Slowly but surely, he made changes to my orthotics, and painfully, poor man, making changes to gradually bring things down. But it was still a journey, really, that was taking a long time, and a lot of patience from my partner as well. And then I realized that things were still not shifting. So I contacted Georgie again, and I'd heard about somatic tracking, and I was curious, and but I didn't really know. I didn't really sort of Google it enough about it. And then I just messaged Georgie, and I said, I've heard about somatic tracking. And she said straight away, Jim Prisak, that's where you need to go for somatic tracking. And I was like, right, okay. And so hence my email to you in January 2021. And then things started to change. And then things started to change. Yeah, so it's been a slow, painful, emotionally painful journey, and physically tough. And it was only when you and I started working together, and you started to educate me and challenge me in a very gentle way, and with such patience and compassion, to help me change, and to help me understand what was going on, and to help me understand how the emotions that were coming up for me, how they were showing up in my body, why they were showing up in my body, and then what to do with them when they show up in my body. So that was pivotal, absolutely pivotal. Yeah, that was the start of our work together.
Yeah, and it's been, like I said, for all the listeners, it's not always a quick fix, right? Claire's a great example of this. Reading the book, got some, results from that, but not enough. And then little pieces of the puzzle along the way, and then doing our work helped tremendously. But it took time, and so I want to highlight that for people. I always tell people, throw the timeline out, and like you were saying off air, maybe share with the audience here about that idea of wanting to be better now, or tomorrow or the next day.
Absolutely. I was super impatient, when I was reading, and it was so helpful. I was reading about other people's experiences of having a very quick, almost spontaneous shift, and the pain going, and I believed it, and I wanted that for me, but I wanted it too much. I put myself under so much pressure, and the more pressure I put myself under, I now realize the more fear I was creating in my body, and really not, I couldn't accept. I wanted it to be over. I wanted the pain to stop, and I wanted to be there, and I just didn't want to have to wait. And I wanted it to happen overnight. I wanted to be one of those kind of miracles, and actually there was lots of reasons why I wanted to kind of have this time with you, Jim. One was to kind of thank you for your patience with me, and one is to share with other people is sometimes it happens quickly, and sometimes it doesn't. It happens when it's ready to happen, and it will happen. That's what I want to say to people. It absolutely will happen. Hold on to that belief. It will happen. I think some of the big aha moments, and some of them felt big but small. I mean, I can remember, Jim, I don't know if you can, I would have sessions when you'd make me stand in the session, and you said, right, stand. And we'd even got my trainers out. I don't know if you remember, I had a pair of trainers and I would not change these trainers for 7 years, same pair of trainers.
Let's talk about that for a second, because this was incredible. When Claire showed me these trainers, I said, let me see these things. I said, you've been wearing them for 7 years straight. Like, so let me get this right here. And you're telling me they're comfortable and you can't put these brand new ones on? Let me see them. Like, this makes no sense. And they were so worn down.
Yeah.
And they were torn to pieces. And you said, these are more comfortable than the new ones. And that was just such, right, the sign of TMS, right? That you literally were more comfortable in these things that were falling apart than something that was more supportive.
Absolutely. And the orthotics that were, weren't comfortable, and that kind of people very patiently changing for me very slowly, because I didn't need orthotics. I didn't need orthotics. And I realized now I thought I'd needed them, and I thought that they were a crutch, if you like. And I can remember saying to you as well, Jim, about kind of, I was even finding it hard at that time to stand on my own 2 feet. Yeah. And I think that was very symbolic of kind of the things that we were working through and I was working through. And there were moments like that, you kind of challenging me to stand, and I wouldn't walk uphill. I just wouldn't walk up a hill. And I can remember one of the exercises that I was given by Jasmine physio was heel raises. And the first time I would do one, and that was it. And I had to pretend I wasn't even doing it, like opening a window or something and going up on my feet, because I was frightened I was going to hurt myself. Now, if I kind of fast forward to now, and just kind of, just to share how opposite this is I've got so many different pairs of trainers, so many different pairs of shoes. I still walk 16,000 steps a day. I walk uphill, downhill, on terrain that's so rubbly now. I would only walk on straight terrain. I stand and don't even think about it. It's just all of those things, and I do 120 heel raises.
Wow.
It's, and all of the things that I never thought I'd be able to do, including one of them was driving. I didn't think I would be able to drive again, and again with yourself and Jasmine, it was like sit in the car on the drive, and of course I would be frightened, and I get this pain and the association in between the two. It was just sort of spiraling round. But I think the biggest thing was learning with yourself and with therapists how to deal with emotions rather than putting them in. To me, was to have an understanding of what that pain meant. Going back to this gorgeous somatic practice that you kind of, one of the things that you do kind of individually and through group work, it's that somatic tracking, and just to see it. I can remember we've had so many times when the pain has moved all over my body to familiar places. It's been in my head, my jaw, my feet, and it's just moved about. And it's astounded me. I've turned up to our time together at times with such head pain or such foot pain, and we'd be talking and my foot would be killing and I'd be touching it all the time, and you would be asking me about, well, how does it make you feel, and the emotions that were coming up, and then it would just shift and go, and I was like, my goodness.
Yeah, there were sessions, right, where we worked through and it would move so symptom imperative around your system, around your body, all over, up, down, back. and then working through, finally getting to some emotion, right? And then things would settle. You release, sometimes your stomach would start gurgling, sometimes
Yeah,
a big sigh. And then you would notice, but you'd feel a bit better. By the end of the session, felt the
absolutely. Absolutely, yeah. There was really kind of, my body was really giving signals when it was in that great rest and digest. Once we'd kind of worked together and processed where those emotions were coming up. And the great other things that we did is you helped me with kind of visualization as well, which was phenomenal, incredibly powerful, really, really powerful, and really helped again shift some of this emotion, shift some of this pain for me. And it's been a journey, and at one time I know that I was seeing you sometimes a couple of times a week, and so then it was certainly weekly, and then we move that further away, and over time we still connect now, and because there are still times when it'll show up in my body,
yeah.
and I'm like, okay, I know what this is, I've got my strategies, and I know what to do with this, and I remember. And I still will go on to your YouTube channel and watch the videos that you do of success stories, or kind of when you're talking about a topic, whether that be somatic tracking or some practice. And with the group work that you do, I have the audio. So every day I have an audio come through and I listen, because it just keeps that message for me going, because I realize that I've had chronic pain somewhere in my body since my 20s.
Yeah, and this maybe pause there for a minute. The repetition, right? We worked together for what, 3 years or 2.5 years or something.
Yeah.
And it was just like the repetition and the understanding and the belief and your ability to handle the emotions. Because in the beginning, you couldn't. I remember it was you couldn't handle the emotion. It would shift out your body. You with those shoes, you could barely wear them in the session for 5 minutes. I'd have you put them on for 10 minutes in the session, and that was a lot. And you could barely
Yeah.
walk in the house. So it was just a progression. And remember, so many times with the shoes, like you just couldn't do it. You would just get so uncomfortable. So you weren't, the fear was so powerful, right? That it was hard for you to process and handle. But what happened was with time and practice, you did beautifully. You handled it better and better. You were getting stronger and stronger. And then boom, you just started making that progress.
Yeah, absolutely. And I faced it, I absolutely faced it. And I even now have a chat, with it sometimes. If I ever get a moment like, oh, I can't, I'm like, oh yes, you can. I've just been away on holiday, I've been walking up sort of hills like this, and not and most times not blinking an eye, and just doing it. And that's taken a long time, and I honestly never thought I'd get here, Jim. I really didn't. There were times and moments when I thought no, and now I'm ecstatic that I'm here. I'm full of joy, I'm so appreciative, and it's taken a kind of, I guess, as I say, like a community of people around me to get me here. But I wanted to kind of share with people that actually it was our work together that was a significant shift. Everybody had an amazing part to play, but it was when we started working together that I truly got it. And that's really important to me to be able to kind of share with people as well.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. And I think it's a journey for everybody, right? And to get it. And then it's like you said, you can get it, but you don't 100% get it yet, right? There's layers of this, and you certainly went through them, different challenges. And I certainly challenged you to do more. I kept
Yeah.
I kept your belief up for you at times when you were doubting,
Yes,
you know.
absolutely, absolutely. And I think that's what it took.
Yeah, and then your belief is getting stronger and stronger, your confidence is getting higher, your doubt was getting lower, right? Then we worked through the emotions. We did a lot of work around that too, right? And aside, just so people know, we did a lot of somatic work, but geared around emotions and things that happened to you,
Yeah,
what was going on in your body. And so you were so open to that. And I think that was what was also great, Claire. You were very open. You stuck with the process. There
yeah,
were, you said, tough days, good days, ups, downs, but you kept going. And I think that's the key. A lot of people might give up too soon or
Yeah.
won't stick with it long enough. And I think you're such a testament to staying with the process.
Thank you, Jim. Yeah, it's so worth it. No, it's so worth it. Yeah, and I think that what I learned along the way, and I'm still learning, I guess, is that actually you can use this approach for your life. It's a lifelong practice. And there was a point when I was, I guess this is kind of as I was growing and learning, when I thought, what I was learning, what I was doing, I'll do it, then it'll go, then I won't have to ever do it again. I won't have to. But actually, what I now know and realize is these are great tools for the rest of my life, and great tools. They're with me for life.
That's right.
And whatever life throws at me, that's the way I'm going to go. That's the way I'm going to kind of use these tools.
Absolutely. Yeah, your demeanor, your mood, right, is so different. Like you're able to shift to positivity, stay there, right? Not get dragged down by that fear or dragged down by those emotions. So it's just incredible to see. And it shows you can shift. The brains can shift. Please,
Yes.
plastic, no matter how long it takes. They're doubting the process, but yeah, it's truly incredible. I mean, they know where you were, right? And
Yeah.
reflecting back into where you are now with your feet and the walking and everything and movement and shoes and
Shoes and yeah, you name it, everything, even socks. I would only wear the same pair of socks, the same type, the same make. And that would only be, it was everything. It just had to be the same.
yeah.
And now I would never walk barefoot. And now I walk barefoot around the house. I walk barefoot. It's just phenomenal. It really is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's one thing too I want to highlight is you said how we had read Sandra's book, that was a shift. And then
Yeah.
you got the MRI scans back, and that was also a lot of evidence, right?
Yeah.
That gave you the strong belief that there is nothing wrong. But even that, right, at the moment was not enough. Like that you had to take and work with yourself, with your own fears and other emotions until eventually the brain learned that yes, your feet are okay.
Yeah.
They are all right.
That's it. Absolutely, absolutely. And I was a prolific watching for symptoms, and kind of putting attention on every sensation. I think you could sort of like, kind of those brain sensation. It was like everything. It was just, and I became very threat focused by my environment. And my neck would ache from looking down when I went out for a walk, because I would look down at the floor looking for the tiniest stone
Yeah.
in case I went over on it. So I was so threat focused, kind of making sure I couldn't hurt myself or something, making sure nothing would happen to me. And not crossing the road, not wanting to cross the road in case I couldn't get to the other side in time. And so it took a long time. It was a long time to shift that focus.
Yeah.
For sure.
And maybe share with the audience too that, as you were going back and starting to do more, we had you walking more, standing more, move. It wasn't without sensations, right? It wasn't without. So maybe share that too, because there are people think I'm going to have no symptoms or sensations when I return back. That wasn't the case, was it?
No, not at all. No, I would do something. I would go on a walk or go climb a slight incline, and sort of get so far and then turn back, with intention to just go so far, and I would feel a sensation, and then by the time I got back to the car, for example, try to go up a hill, just a small incline. It's not, you can't really class it as a hill. I would, my feet, the arches of my feet would be terrible. They'd be hurting, the pain in my ankles. I'd have to take my trainers off. I'd have my feet on cushions in the car, and I would panic, and I would be like, I've hurt myself again. I've done too much. It started that cycle off again. So yeah, it was not without my kind of parts of me putting up a bit of a fight. It's like it didn't want to let go of it. It's
Yes.
like it
It
didn't want to
becomes
let
actually the brain is thinking it's protecting you, your feet at some point, even though it's crazy, but that's what it learns. So that's too dangerous. And so we'll give you the pain so that you don't walk so far. And
yeah,
I think you highlighted that really well, that yes, it comes up and then it can kick off those subsequent thoughts. Did I do too much? Oh no, fear goes up, right? That's what I hear from everybody. Oh, it's a setback. Oh, I did too much. And I'm always trying to correct people. And you finally get it, right? And you learn that no, that's not true,
yeah,
right? Your language changes, your belief changes. Yes, you still have those sensations, but you were dealing with them in a different way.
yeah, absolutely. And kind of let the symptoms be a barometer for me by kind of looking at, okay, what else is going on in my life? What else is happening now that this could be about? Because it's not about my feet
Right.
pain.
Right.
It's about that I might have been, you know, processing something else, you know, and it was just important that for me to notice what the symptom was telling me. It wasn't structural, it wasn't physical, although I got sensations, but actually it was the emotions, it was the
Yes.
emotional piece. And I can remember, for a long time I would take notes from our time together, and I would take these notes out with me, so that if I had a flare, I would, because I couldn't think straight, sometimes the fear would send my brain.
Maybe I'll hijack your head.
Yeah, so that would happen. So I would get my notes and I think, right, okay, what do I need to do now? You know, what do I need to do? I'd ask myself some set of questions and kind of calm my system down, kind of get myself more regulated, and just kind of see what is it that I need to do now? Do I need to process something, face something, relax? The parasympathetic relaxation. I mean, even now I still listen to those. They're phenomenal.
Yeah, that's fantastic because what you're highlighting is when people get hijacked, right, you can't think straight. The amygdala takes over, you're flooded, right, with emotion or stress. And that's it. You were able to get and have the evidence handy, have the questions, able to get your cortical brain working. And that's it. Either regulate down, relax, ask yourself, is there anything going on, right? So you were able to do that more and more and step in,
Yeah,
respond, basically, when it was reacting. And that was key because you started to get better and better at that over time.
yeah, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. It's a daily practice. And it's one I now have come to love. And it really is a daily practice. And I think that's something that is really important. Is it's just one of those great tools for life. Actually, you know, tools for life. It really is, and that's kind of, that is my way now. That is my way, is kind of working out what is my body telling me and what do I need to do. You know, to
Exactly what you need to do. And we saw, like, speaking of emotions, we were just talking about fear, that was one of the emotions that really showed up in your feet right around doing things. And but also
yeah.
we noticed at times that anger could activate your feet as well. So it wasn't just one emotion, right? There were other ones too.
Absolutely. And the other big ones for me was shame and,
Shame.
and guilt. Yes, I had a lot of shame, a lot of guilt, and anger and rage, and that sort of heat that would end up as inflammation in me, as a heat, you know, whether that heat be in my head, my sinuses, in my feet. It went somewhere. That emotion went
That's right.
somewhere. Yeah,
Yeah, I think that's so important. And that is the hard piece for many people. The term alexithymia they talk about, which is a difficulty working with feelings and a difficulty identifying what you're feeling emotionally, right? Because it's so physical, it's just these symptoms, yet
yeah,
they're not connected to emotions. They don't feel like an emotion. Like, I don't know what I'm feeling. I just feel this pain in my feet, right?
yeah,
And it would emerge for you, right, through some of the somatic work at times, it would emerge the emotion, or we would inquire about what does this feel like, or how does it make you feel? right? To get closer to the emotion.
Absolutely. And I can remember you were so super patient, because time and time again you would be saying, okay, how does this make you feel? What is it? How does it make you feel? And it would slowly start to come to me. And then the words would come, and I can remember you saying, that sounds like anger to me. And I'll be, oh yeah, yeah. And I learned kind of what the emotion was, and it took a while, and I was having kind of therapy at the same time as well. But as I say, without our work together, it was pivotal in moving me forward significantly. It really was. It was that kind of challenge that I needed. It's a very kind of holistic approach, and it's one like we had repeated things. And what was awesome as well with obviously your PT background as well is that I knew that when you were challenging me because you knew the body so well. It was like, once I did my initial assessment with you, and you were very clear as well of there was no structural issue, that there's no structural issue. It's like, that's it. And so I think that gave me the courage and the confidence to push as well. If that makes sense, because you were like, this is okay, you're all good to go here.
Yeah, and that's again what I said earlier. You really bought in. You borrowed my confidence at times. You borrowed, but you were able to do that. And like when people can believe that, they take it in and say, okay, yeah, this is true. Like, because some people doubt that too. It's hard when you have high anxiety and fear. That part of your brain starts to doubt anybody or any result. So
Yes.
the fact that you took that in and trusted, that's the word, you trusted that was the case. Even if you didn't trust it at times, you,
Yes.
you stayed with it, right? You didn't give up on it. You stayed with it.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely, yeah. And that was the same with Jasmine that helped me, and with Stephen. They would keep saying the same things. The kind of the psychological education was super important. And even now I kind of still will lean into that with other things as well. It's super important, and I'll never stop learning, never stop being amazed at what we're capable of.
Yeah.
Of what we're capable of overcoming. Never stop being amazed at what we can do.
That's it. And to come back to, as we sum up here, the belief that you
Yeah,
had got stronger and stronger, which I think is one of the most important things, is to believe and know and understand you are okay. Your
yeah,
sensations or symptoms, they're not representing danger, harm, damage. So you can move forward, which you did. And then we just work on these emotions, which again also aren't dangerous and harmful, but they do feel that way to us. And we have a hard time getting to them at times. So you did all those things, and a lot of repetition. I think that's important for people to hear. The brain is stubborn. It gets stuck on its patterns. It's learned for, how many years did you have that foot pain? Many years, like over a decade.
over a decade. Yeah,
Yeah, it was a
yeah,
long time, but it doesn't matter how long it was. You still overcame it, which is incredible.
yeah. Absolutely, absolutely. And the other thing is that just to kind of as a testament to that, really, is that I wouldn't travel very far. So at one point I wouldn't get any further than 35 miles away from home. Then I would only travel in this country. Well, this year I'm already on holiday number 3, which has been to America, Barcelona. So now I'm traveling, and as I say, up mountains. A recent trip to Arizona and Sedona saw me up some really amazing terrain, and I was like, look at me now, look at this. So it
Yeah.
is possible. It is possible.
It's possible. And it's truly just the unlearning, right, of some of these things and processing some of these things and knowing you're
Yeah.
okay. I mean, to think of being in a wheelchair to what you just said now shows other people it's possible for them too. So I think that's what you're trying to impart. And as we finish up, is there anything you want to say, or your story is just amazing, Claire, to people out there still who are going through this?
I just would like to say, just believe in yourself, trust the process. You can do it. It takes time. It takes as long as it takes, and be super kind to yourself. Be compassionate to yourself. As you say, Jim, throw the timeline out of the window. It will happen. Just trust the process. And the other thing is and do the work. I always thought I was doing the work until I really had to do the work and really go all in. So that's the only one thing I would say in a compassionate challenge is go all in, do the work, whatever that looks like.
Yeah, great. That's great advice to finish on. Yeah, you have to do the work. Right? Yeah. But it pays off, like you said, not only in how you feel, but in the tools you develop, lifelong tools, better emotion regulation, right? So many positives that come out of it, come out of a different person. So awesome, Claire. So awesome. I'm so happy that you're here sharing it. I'm always happy when people get to this point, and I couldn't be happier for you to share this story today with everybody.
Thank you.
And hopefully it reaches audience, wide and large, to help other people, not only with foot issues, sciatic issues, back issues, but any kind of symptom of the body can be TMS.
Absolutely anything. Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much, Jim. Thank you.
You're so welcome, Claire. Okay, take care of yourself.
Yeah. See you.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.